I understand why the decision to have Charlotte lose to Natalya on Raw this week has a lot of people within WWE perplexed and a lot of fans of WWE frustrated. I completely and totally get it, and I understand. And you guys are right. It makes zero sense to me in this situation. Here is Charlotte's debut match on Raw. She is your NXT Women's Champion. You are putting her on this show to kind of test and see how she'll connect with the WWE audience, give her an opportunity, but also at the same point in time, you're trying to promote your WWE network and you're trying to promote the show on the network Thursday, of which she will be a featured attraction because she is one of the champions on that NXT brand. And somebody in that company named Vincent Kennedy McMahon decided the best way to accomplish what needed to be accomplished, which was showcase Charlotte and promote that NXT Revolution show on Thursday, was to have Charlotte lose to Natalya in 2.5 minutes. This is how out of touch and senile this old fuck is. And this is also the problem of the WWE today because everybody's so goddamn afraid of this asshat, and everybody's so damn scared for their jobs and so afraid to speak up and say anything and do anything to go against this guy that ridiculously dumb dick decisions like this happen. And then on the back end, you've got people trying to make excuses for it, even like Triple H. You could clearly see and understand and hear that he didn't agree with it, that he thought it was the wrong thing to do for business, and he's talking about, well, it kind of is what it is, and it may have surprised him, but even he still tries to spin it. He still tries to put that pro-WWE, that pro-Vince slant on it. Well, when she comes back in 6 months, nobody will remember it, and nobody will care. And it just speaks to the whole fucking problem with the WWE. Is the fact that they think the fans are stupid. We might act stupid and sometimes be believed to be stupid, but we're not. We do remember this shit. And this stuff does matter. And it's even more perplexing to hear a Triple H kind of sit there and imply, basically, flat out kind of come out and say that he doesn't agree with it. But at the end of the day, he couldn't talk Vince out of it. Or nobody would sit there and have the guts or the balls to stand up to Vince and say, no, this is stupid. This is the wrong thing to do. So all that shit that Vince is talking about, people grabbing the brass ring, it is a fucking joke. Because as long as Vince is there, there is no brass ring to grab because he shoved him so far up his ass and up Cena's ass that nobody could ever possibly reach up and grab him themselves. I understand everybody's frustration about this, both within WWE and outside of WWE, because it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But the greater thing I want to touch on here really quick is something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time. I've kind of touched on in the past, and it's something that I believe should be addressed. And that is this whole notion that when you have a new wrestler or a new character debuting, that the best way to get them over, or the best way to establish them, the best way to debut them, the best way to feature them, is by having them win their first match or winning a series of matches. It always happens that way. You know, primarily, here's a new character. The first time you see him, they're going to win a match. Then the next time they're probably going to win, and then the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time. And it's just a matter of how long the push goes and how far it goes before it's eventually halted in the WWE. And I think this is a very outdated way of doing things, and I think it's a very non-realistic way of doing things, and I think it's just another way that WWE and maybe some of the wrestling community as a whole is out of touch with the times. Look, I understand wanting to establish somebody. I understand wanting to get somebody over strong. But at the end of the day, for all the complaining we do about the same old shit, wouldn't having everybody debut and always win their first match or their first several matches be the same old shit? Wouldn't that be as predictable as any fucking thing in the world? How often do you see somebody actually debut and they lose their first match? Like a debut where they were actually made to be a big deal. A debut where they were given vignettes or they were talked about for weeks or they did interviews for weeks before they actually wrestled for the first time. How often do we actually see somebody like that lose their first match clean? The last guy I could think of off the top of my head was maybe Johnny Curtis. I think he lost his first match quickly. That's about it. Every other time, It's new guy debuts, new guy wins again, new guy wins again. It's the same pathetically predictable pattern of behavior that is exhibited by creative teams and bookers all throughout wrestling and has been for a long period of time, and I think it's something that needs to stop. Because part of the big problem here with professional wrestling as a whole today, and it's not just WWE, it's not one company, it's a problem with the entire business as a whole, especially here in the United States, is the fact that fans can't connect with these wrestlers. They don't get as emotionally invested in these wrestlers. And part of the reason is because it is hard to relate to them. It is hard to buy into them. It is hard to believe in them. It is hard to feel like you have to get behind these guys in order for these guys to get where they need to go or where you want them to go. And when you sit there and you see it all the time in sports, you'll see sometimes rookies come in and they dominate right away. But oftentimes there's growing pains. They lose before they win, or they struggle, then they do well, then they struggle even more, and then they do even better. You know, in the WWE, it's every time you get a rookie or you get a new talent or a fresh face or a young talent, they're winning every time, like out of the gate consistently. There's no story there. There's no element of unpredictability there. There's no element of trying to tell a real story there. It's just new guy debuts, new guy wins, new guy repeat. You know, it's just, again, a pathetically pattern of predictable behavior that we see come out of professional wrestling today. How cool would it be, let's say, for example, if you brought up a Sami Zayn to the main roster? And in his first match, he faced a guy, let's say, on the middle of the card. Let's say Dolph Ziggler, okay? A lot of you could jerk off to that, and that's fine. Sami Zayn versus Dolph Ziggler. Zayn puts in a good effort, but he loses clean to Dolph Ziggler. Is there any shame in that for him? Is there anything wrong with that for him? Could he not still be showcased in a good way in that opening match or in that first match? Absolutely, he could still be featured strongly. He could still be made to look like he's a big deal. He could still be a guy that can get himself over, even by not winning, because it would be through the effort, it would be through the story told in the match, the things that he does that would be able to get him over, to be able to get fans to engage in him, be able to get fans to connect with him. Now, if you bring up a Sami Zayn in his first match, he wrestles against Tyson Kidd and he beats him. Maybe the next week it's Justin Gabriel, the next week it's Xavier Woods, and he keeps winning. Well, it's the same pattern as everybody else. But if you bring him up and you say he loses to Dolph Ziggler, but then maybe the next week he flukishly beats Seth Rollins. He finds a way to get it done. But then the next week he loses to a guy like a Tyson Kidd. But maybe the next week he beats somebody else in the middle of a card, like let's say a Kofi Kingston. There's an actual element of believability there. It's actually something that would be grounded in reality. Being a rookie, being a younger talent, a guy trying to get himself to that top level. He's going to have ups and he's going to have downs. But the problem is, especially in the WWE, the guys always start off on the ups and then eventually they always go down. There's no pattern. There's no ebb and flow. There's no peaks and valleys. It's just this and then this. It's summit and abyss. And no, not the one from TNA Abyss. The even worse Abyss, if that's possible. This whole notion, again, that people debuting always need to go over, I think is very outdated, and I think it's a wrong way to do business today. And it's like I talk about with the lack of black athletes at the top of WWE and TNA and wrestling companies as a whole, that certain fans might look at that and view it as not believable when you see black athletes here in the States dominating professional football, dominating basketball. And then they turn on WWE and it's dominated by white athletes. Whether people want to talk about it or acknowledge it or admit it or not, there's a certain stigma that goes along with sports that are dominated by white athletes. And that's true, whether that be golf or hockey, what have you. Do you want to be that product that has that type of stigma? Well, then on the flip side, if you know a new guy's debuting and you know instantly that he's going to win, he's going to follow the same pattern of thousands of other guys that have debuted the same fucking way for years and years. And I think everything about wrestling right now needs to be revisited, and everything about the way the product is packaged and presented needs to be rethought and potentially shaken up, if not totally fundamentally changed. And one of the biggest fundamental changes I would like to see is to see this stop of the instant push. Like I said, my Sami Zayn example, and it's not the only example I would give. You have the guy lose his first match, but he wrestles well. Then maybe the next time he gets even closer, but he just can't get it done. Then the third time, he finally figures out how to win. You've got to lose sometimes in order to figure out how to win, so that way you actually can win. We see this all the time happen in sports when teams get to a certain point, players get to a certain point, but it takes time before they finally get over the hump and they win a championship. You know, guys like Michael Jordan, guys like Kobe Bryant, guys like LeBron James. You know, and I say Kobe Bryant referencing his time when he was the guy and there was no more Shaq in LA. You know, in the NFL, it took Peyton Manning time to finally win a championship. It takes these guys time. You have to learn how to win. And the WWE, I think, insults our intelligence and does their product and their wrestlers and the fans an incredible disservice by always saying from the beginning, and this guy's been in NXT, a product that most of you aren't fucking watching. He just instantly comes in and beats this guy that's actually on the WWE roster that you do recognize. Got to shake shit up here a little bit. I understand in this particular case why so many people are upset about Charlotte losing. Because I agree in this particular case, because of what should have been accomplished here with this segment and with this match, she should have won, or if she was going to lose, she should have lost via a DQ or a countout or something like that, something that gets her over as a heel. Sitting there and losing in short order to Natalya does absolutely nothing for her and failed fundamentally to do what it needed to do, which was to promote that NXT Revolution show. But other than that, I'm tired of always seeing a new guy debut and winning right away. I want a more realistic product. I want a product that I can believe in. I want a product that I can relate to. And if you are always bringing up new talents and they always win, then those guys that should stand out when you do that, the guys like, let's say, the Rybacks and the Rusevs, they don't stand out as much as they should. They don't come across as the monsters as they should unless you stick with them for a long period of time like you have in the case of Rusev, because otherwise they're on the same exact trajectory as, no offense, people, but guys like Adam Rose and Bo Dallas and so many other fucking guys that you've done the exact same damn thing with. I'm tired of the same old shit. And this is one of these examples of the same old shit that I'm tired of seeing from professional wrestling. It is time to shake things up. It is time to acknowledge that you're wrong. It is time, professional wrestling, to do things in a different way, to do things in a way that is more engaging, that is more believable, that is more relatable to. If you do that, maybe your business wouldn't be in the fucking sad shape that it's damn in, and maybe the business would be able to better create more young top stars that fans actually got emotionally invested into, engaged into, and fully, completely bought into in the way that they are supposed to, in the way that you want them to. This whole everybody wins every time their first time shit has got to go.